Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy Zuki. And today, I wanted to come off and explain a couple of things real quickly. Kind of wanted to come off and go through and say some stuff about what I've been doing of my YouTube and everything else. Way, like 5 years ago, this is kind of going to be somewhat of an explanation of story-related stuff, too. So, kind of want to let y'all know that, too. Figured I'd turn that on real quick. With story-related stuff, I've kind of went through and there has been a lot of... When I started doing all the story stuff, way before that, way back then, like I'm talking about 5 years ago, I started to do a little bit of clips, like racing game clips, fighting game clips. I've done a little bit of driving clips for like different racing games. I've done Fortnite events. I've done different Fortnite, like little trick shots and yada 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 yada. I've done bits and pieces of, like, it's all around base type clips. And then eventually, whenever it got to the point to where I know that I can do more recording for like at least 5-minute videos or 4-minute videos, I've done driving clips, and I've done more driving clips. Then I've done online clips, yada yada yada, where I would face people, and eventually 2 years after that, I did the UFC stuff. Then I did a little bit of GTA stuff. Then I had videos where, I'm trying to think. I had videos where I would go through and do a bunch of GTA shootouts. And then it came to 2K. 2K22. With 2K22, I started doing a little bits and pieces of the, give me 1 second. I started doing some of the, I started doing the 2K22 stuff. Like, I started doing the universe mode. I did a little bit of league stuff, like PvP, call-related shows with a bunch of people on Xbox. There's a couple of Twitch streams out there where I did that. And that's where Austin was born. That's where Austin Zuki became a thing. He had started his journey there, but didn't really start his journey there. He had returned from a 19, 20, 21, somewhat of a 3-year to 4-year gap from 2K18 to 2K22. I tried to make that gimmick based off like a bounty hunter gimmick and somewhat of a trying to think. Somewhat of a, hey, get myself out there, get myself into something that I can be good at, get myself out there to find something fun to do. And that's when I got into AI versus AI. Sometimes I would do the AI versus I would do the myself versus the AI, CPU, yada yada yada. I did Zeke's journey shortly after that, and I did it on the hardest difficulty. I would go through and start bringing that story along, and then that's where some of the ECC Present stuff came along. So with Zeke, then there came Wes, then there was Austin. Those three became a thing, and then Zukon became a thing. Zukon was somewhat of a character that I had taken from one place and put it on another, and all of these characters ended up being somewhat of a thing that I brought together. They're a band of misfits. Excuse me yawning, I'm sorry. When I ended the partnership of that, which there's a double up, nah, there was a double video of that about 2 years ago. I kind of went through and hopped back on a little bits and pieces of different GTA stuff, and with me going through a bunch of the story stuff, I tried to bundle in a lot of different people. Like, if you'll notice that there's a lot of different characters that I went through and bundled in. I also went on a little thing where I did a little bit of online with a bunch of people, did spots. I did the more UFC fights, and then I did my announcement that I joined a I'm trying to think what it is. I joined a popularized company, and then Austin got a different look. So before all that started to be, you have this group called the Union, which I had formed with a bunch of buddies. That eventually took the buddies out of it. Well, I had the group of buddies be called the Unionized Elite, and then I had the Union be just the main five, which was Zukon, Austin, Zeke, and then eventually I added Zookie, and then I eventually added Jack. Which obviously this whole group was just based off of a bunch of different odds and ends, different games. Like they brought in from different games, and it made it all a lot of confusing. But it didn't seem confusing on my end, and I feel like that should have been something that I should have said. But if you notice how later on in the years I did an AEW Fight Forever Road to Elite, and that's how Zuki was born. Zuki had came up with somewhat of a lethal look, helmetized look, and somewhat of a starting outfit, and then AEW was built around 2019 and 2020. So you have the one group, and then you have one guy, and then eventually down the years, Zuki was put into the group, and he became like the super. He became somewhat of a super build of what Austin would have been. And with him being a super build of what Austin would have been, he kind of would have went through and became something better. So, with me going here, and keep in mind I'm looking at my YouTube at the moment, with me going through and doing that, Zeke's career, and then me going through and ending, or like, I had put a lot of different characters from different games into one like whole thing for my YouTube. So if you go through and watch the YouTube stuff, from like the old stuff to the new stuff, you'll follow it in timeline order. And also, with a book that I was doing. I also did a little bit of writing along behind the scenes. So if you watch the YouTube stuff, then you watch and then you listen to some of the Discord stuff. Some of the Discord stuff will be put into the videos too, and it'll just be something that if you want to bundle it together, it makes it a lot easier to listen to and to watch. And that's why I'm making this. Then here came ECW. ECW was a thing where I was gonna make an E-Fed, but then I had a lot of stuff to come around, and I just built like a lot of different characters, and that's where I made a lot of the show from. So if you look at that, and then you look at different games that I went through and try to look back on, then you look at a lot of the old shenanigans that I used to do, and Zuki eventually became somewhat of a main character thing. He was one thing that I kind of wanted to build based off of myself. It just seemed fun. It just seemed fun because I had always had this certain set of games to play, and I would just try to find that certain group to run it with. It was like a hobby of mine. So I said, why not? So eventually down the line, if you go through and watch all of these like different games, like if you watch all the wrestling stuff, you'll notice a lot of stuff. You'll find a lot of stuff that will match in some games that won't be, that will have their own story to it. So if you go through and pay attention to it, a lot of stuff will make sense. If you follow up to the current stuff, I have nothing as an idea at the moment besides running with a buddy of mine, Schmuck, also known as Mason. He's somewhat been that duo that Zuki has to sit there and do. There are a couple of UFC videos that I had made, like a tournaments and stuff, where I would go through and have the first name of matching other old characters, and then throwing on random last names onto it, and then it makes it seem simple for me, but in the same mindset, it's just not the same person. Don't get me wrong, it was something fun to do, but it just didn't seem like that. I wanted to go back and through and knock off old connections and tie up loose ends that Zuki was going to plan on doing. But what I'm going to plan on doing for the future is, if you notice that I'm starting lots of different game Let's Plays, like noticing on PS4, I'm going back on timeline for 7 years ago and just playing games that would have been fun as years would have went by. A little bit of the nostalgia feel. That's why I did the Modern Warfare Remastered stuff. And if you notice though too, I don't have the... There were some streams that I had a long time ago trying Twitch, where I would play online with family. And with me doing it with family, I'd be able to go through and just goof off. That's all it was, just goof off. That's mainly what we did. And then I did the Red Dead. I think all the games that I did so far on PS4, if you catch on, will be Need for Speed Payback, Uncharted 4, Thief's End, and then I'm working on doing Red Dead Redemption 2, and then Need for Speed Heat. With most of those, with that console, there has been a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And what I'm trying to do is, when I'm playing those, and when I'm putting those out to y'all, I'm trying to get it to where it will make more sense of, I'm just doing it to get through it and just to have fun with it. So there's a huge difference between some stuff. I have also been doing like a little bits and odds and ends, looking at new games that are coming out. Like 2K25 has been something that I've thrown out, and I've been thinking about doing and bringing him back. But if I do bring him back, there is something that where I keep track of most of the characters that I use, and I think what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna just bring him back and then bring Frost back. And if I need to do the My Ride stuff and make it would bundle it together to make it just one playthrough. Instead of making a whole team like I used to, I'm gonna just do it with 2 people and it get it way much more easier. But I've also been thinking of other ideas, and I don't want to spoil those ideas, because if I do spoil those ideas, it won't be as interesting as it is. So, we shall see, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.